The global political landscape was rocked by a Moscow court's severe sentence against Ilya Gorbunov, a former manager of the infamous troll factory, once controlled by Yevgeny Prigozhin. The verdict sent shockwaves through diplomatic circles, as observers scrambled to interpret what this bold move signaled about the Kremlin's internal dynamics. Gorbunov, once a shadowy figure in Russia's information wars, now found himself at the center of a high-profile crackdown, raising questions about who truly holds power in Putin's Russia. Gorbunov's 10-year prison term for extortion is widely seen as a calculated move by Vladimir Putin to consolidate his grip on power, sending a clear message to both allies and adversaries. The severity of the sentence stunned even Donald Trump, who has long boasted of his unique insight into the Russian leader's mindset. Trump, who once claimed he could read Putin like a book, was caught off guard by the ruthlessness of this latest maneuver, prompting a rare moment of public astonishment. This event shines a harsh light on Russia's growing internal turmoil. Across the country, industrial accidents are on the rise, and economic pressures are mounting for ordinary Russians. Factories that once symbolized national strength now struggle to stay afloat, and the specter of layoffs haunts workers from Moscow to the Urals. The shelves in many stores are emptier than ever, a stark reminder of the economic strain gripping the nation. Factories are burning, not just from accidents but from years of neglect and mismanagement. Emergency crews race to contain disasters that seem to multiply by the week, painting a vivid picture of a nation under immense strain. The fires are more than just physical, they symbolize the broader crisis consuming Russia's infrastructure and economy. Trump's surprise at these developments reflects a significant miscalculation of Russia's stability. For years, he and his advisors believed the Kremlin's grip was unshakable. Now, faced with evidence of deepening chaos, Washington is forced to reconsider its assumptions. Behind closed doors, U.S. officials scramble to assess the risks and recalibrate their strategy, aware that the stakes have never been higher. The crisis at the heart of the Kremlin is deepening by the day. Military vehicles patrol Moscow's streets, and headlines around the world warn of instability in a nuclear-armed power. The implications for global stability, and for the ongoing war, are profound, as world leaders watch anxiously for Putin's next move. The once unshakable narrative of a resilient Kremlin is rapidly unraveling. Inside government buildings, officials are visibly stressed, struggling to contain a crisis that threatens to spiral out of control. The Russian ruble continues its downward slide, and the pressure on the system is mounting with each passing day. In response, Trump's reaction has shifted from shock to action. He is now engaged in intense discussions with his advisors, exploring more aggressive economic tactics to exploit Russia's vulnerabilities. The White House is abuzz with urgent meetings, as policymakers debate how best to respond to the rapidly evolving situation. The unfolding drama is setting the stage for a volatile new phase in the standoff between Russia and the West. Diplomatic tensions are rising, and the world is bracing for unpredictable consequences as both sides prepare for what could be a prolonged confrontation. The realization is stark. The Kremlin's crisis is not just a Russian problem, but a global one. As the world watches, the deepening turmoil in Moscow threatens to reshape the international order with consequences that will be felt far beyond Russia's borders. In the early hours of a cold morning, a catastrophic explosion ripped through the elastic industrial plant in Ryazan, one of Russia's most vital gunpowder producers. The blast sent shockwaves across the region, lighting up the sky and drawing attention to a deeper crisis: the country's dangerously decaying industrial infrastructure. For years, experts had warned that aging equipment and neglected safety protocols were turning Russia's factories into ticking time bombs, but those warnings went unheeded. The explosion was devastating. 24 workers lost their lives in an instant, and 157 more were left injured, some with life-altering wounds. The chaos that followed underscored the systemic neglect that has plagued Russian industry for decades, as emergency crews struggled to contain the disaster and treat the wounded amid the wreckage. Investigators quickly ruled out sabotage or external attacks, instead zeroing in on a long list of safety violations and ignored maintenance. The evidence pointed to a culture of cost-cutting and corner-cutting, where profit and production were prioritized over the lives of workers. This wasn't the first time tragedy had struck the Ryazan plant. Its history is littered with previous deadly incidents and repeated safety failures, each one a warning that was brushed aside. Over the years, corners were cut, inspections were rushed, and the lessons of past disasters were forgotten. The aftermath of the explosion brought production to a standstill, creating a critical bottleneck in Russia's munitions supply chain. With the war effort demanding ever more resources, the sudden loss of a key facility sent shockwaves through military logistics, threatening to delay or disrupt vital supplies to the front lines. The Ryazan disaster has exposed a vulnerability that goes far beyond a single factory. Across Russia, countless industrial sites are fighting a losing battle against time and neglect, their crumbling walls and outdated machinery a testament to years of underinvestment. Factories that should be powering the war effort are instead becoming death traps for their workers. Negligence, lack of oversight, and a disregard for safety have turned these essential facilities into hazards, putting both lives and national security at risk. The human cost is heartbreaking, families shattered, communities in mourning. But for the Kremlin, the strategic implications are just as profound. The loss of skilled workers and critical production capacity is a blow that will be felt for months, if not years. In the end, the most immediate threat to Putin's war machine may not come from enemy missiles or foreign sabotage, but from the internal failures and crumbling infrastructure that threaten to undermine Russia's war effort from within. Ukraine's drone campaign is now reaching further and deeper into Russian territory than ever before, marking a dramatic shift in the conflict's dynamics. What began as sporadic strikes has evolved into a relentless, coordinated effort, with Ukrainian drones routinely crossing hundreds of kilometers to strike at the very heart of Russia's infrastructure. These drones are not just targeting military convoys or isolated outposts, they are hitting critical military and economic assets, including oil refineries, supply depots, and transportation hubs that are vital to Russia's war machine. The attacks are systematic and calculated, designed to disrupt logistics, cripple production, and undermine the Kremlin's ability to sustain its military operations. Each strike sends a clear message: nowhere is truly safe from Ukraine's reach. Ukrainian drones have successfully hit military airfields, command centers, and oil refineries, inflicting not only physical damage but also significant economic pain. The destruction of these sites has forced Russia to divert resources and rethink its defensive strategies. These strikes have also exposed glaring vulnerabilities in Russia's air defense systems, revealing gaps in radar coverage and response times. Despite heavy investment in anti-aircraft technology, Russian defenses have struggled to intercept the small, agile drones. The consequences are now rippling through the Russian economy. Gasoline production has declined, refineries have halted operations, and fuel shortages are becoming more common. Long lines at gas stations and empty pumps are now a reality for many Russians. For ordinary Russians, the war is no longer a distant event, it's being felt directly at the gas pump. Rising fuel prices and shortages are fueling frustration and discontent among the population, creating new pressures on the government. The psychological impact of these attacks is profound. The Kremlin's narrative of a secure and successful operation is being shattered, as citizens witness the vulnerability of their own homeland on nightly news broadcasts. Ukraine's strategy of asymmetric warfare is steadily bleeding the Russian economy, eroding public confidence and forcing the Kremlin to confront a new kind of threat, one that is difficult to predict and even harder to stop. As Ukraine's drone capabilities continue to advance, these attacks will play an increasingly crucial role in its fight for survival, shaping the future of the conflict and redefining the boundaries of modern warfare. The West's economic war against Russia is tightening, targeting the core of its financial system. Sanctions are dismantling Russia's ability to finance its war, isolating it from global markets. Factories are cut off from Western technology, leading to a decline in manufacturing. The aviation industry struggles without access to parts, exacerbating industrial decay. Sanctions target Russia's energy revenues, forcing it to sell oil at a discount. Ukraine's drone attacks on refineries further reduce Russia's ability to export refined products. The sanctions are a slow-acting poison, weakening Russia's economy and military readiness. The strategy is reshaping Russia's future, ensuring a smaller, isolated, and less advanced economy. Trump signals a shift in U.S. economic policy, targeting China and India to pressure Russia. Matching EU tariffs on these nations aims to make their support for Russia costly. The message: trade with the West or support Russia, but not both. This high-stakes gamble could alter global trade dynamics. Trump's strategy critiques previous policies, advocating for a confrontational economic posture. Heavy tariffs could trigger a trade war, disrupting supply chains and raising prices. Proponents argue the risks are necessary to end the conflict in Ukraine. Trump's drastic measure reflects his belief in extraordinary actions for extraordinary circumstances. Amidst conflict, high-stakes diplomacy unfolds with limited success. A key summit between Trump and Putin in Alaska tests Trump's diplomatic style. Putin shows conditional willingness to meet Ukrainian leaders but offers no concessions. In Washington, Trump hosts Zelensky and European leaders projecting unity. Zelensky insists on Ukraine's territorial integrity, while Europe doubts Putin's intentions. Discussions focus on security guarantees for Ukraine, with NATO membership complex. The US rules out troop involvement, focusing on weaponry and security pacts. Despite efforts, the gap between Russia and Ukraine remains wide, with no peace pathway. Zelensky remains resolute, advocating for strength to achieve peace. He frames a Russian attack as a direct affront to the US and its interests. Zelensky rejects appeasement, demanding more pressure on Moscow. He calls for stronger sanctions and the seizure of Russian assets for Ukraine's reconstruction. Zelensky warns against Putin's diplomatic traps, emphasizing dialogue based on international law. His leadership maintains Ukrainian morale and international coalition cohesion. Zelensky's calls for sanctions and aid shape the global response, ensuring accountability. Inside the Kremlin, Putin faces unprecedented pressures testing his power. Military setbacks, Ukrainian drone campaigns, and sanctions create a perfect storm. Gorbunov's harsh sentence signals a ruthless crackdown on dissent. Economic pressures are insidious, with high gasoline prices stoking discontent. Sanctions hollow out Russia's industrial base, leading to reliance on aging equipment. The war in Ukraine is a brutal slog with no clear victory path. Military resources are stretched thin, morale is low, and sustainability is questioned. Putin's options are narrowing, each carrying significant risk. The Kremlin is a pressure cooker, with Putin trying to prevent an explosion. Powerful forces converge, bringing the world to a critical juncture. The strategy of economic and military pressure may alter the path to peace. If successful, it could force the Kremlin to negotiate based on Ukrainian sovereignty. However, a cornered Putin could become unpredictable and dangerous. Trump's tariff proposal risks fracturing the global economy, pushing nations closer to Moscow. The world balances stopping aggression with avoiding a broader conflict. Leadership decisions will be pivotal, with Zelensky's resolve anchoring the Western alliance. The war enters a decisive phase, testing endurance and shaping the global security order.